You mentioned the Maple Leafs, and is that where you're at? You're freaking out right now? Is that
all right? Let's get it. Yeah, let's get it out of the way. We're going to play level of concern later, aren't we, Brian?
Well, I mean, it's going to be pretty focused on one or two teams, but yeah, I think we can probably mix in a level of concern at some point.
We have to. I mean, but I you know what? Like, I first and foremost, I love the games on the weekend, regardless of the outcome. I thought the theater and the hockey was great. In what it pertains to last night, I know people wanted goals, but there was. I mean, that goaltending display was unreal.
Both of them played great. Yep.
Both fantastic. It's one mistake at one end, and that's unfortunately your game. But you know what? I was laughing at you, when the Oilers lost the other day because you're like, just as I called it, you were trolling on Twitter.
Well, I know. I was like, all the teams I picked wrong. I'm like, I picked Montreal to get dummied by Pittsburgh, and I said, just like I predicted. People are like, you're such a clown. I'm like,
but you were laughing about it, but that's I kept thinking about it, and I don't know if I have the stats right, but 7 out of the 10, we'll call it underdogs, or 7 out of the 10 teams that were favored lost. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, both 12 seeds won, right? Montreal and Chicago both won their games.
Right. So Montreal and Chicago, but you're looking at, like, Vancouver loses to Minnesota.
Right.
None of us chose Vancouver.
Yep.
Like,
Nashville lost.
Arizona just grinded a win out. Like, when you're watching these games, you're thinking to yourself, like, in your mind, this team, Team X should be better than Team Y, but this is why you're playing the games. It's 4 months later. You're looking at players, you're like, oh, I forgot that guy's on that team. He's healthy now. And, a guy like Grabner scores a shorthanded goal, ends up being the winner for Arizona. That's a guy who was injured last year. So
right.
I just think the idea of Leafs Nation and Leafs Twitter is something else after a game like that. It was obviously a disappointing loss, but they got what they expected they were going to get from the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't think they were terrible. I think for the most part they stayed in the fight. They competed. They understood that there wasn't going to be odd man breaks. I think in the first 5 or 10 minutes, there were some turnovers, some giveaways, some silly plays where they thought they might have been getting something that they weren't, but they understood what was ahead of them. We talked about Freddie's goaltending performance. There's a bit of a bad mark on it because of the one he let in. That wasn't a great goal from Atkinson.
No.
But there's a lot of room for improvement. It's not all I talked to Andy this afternoon. It's not all doom and gloom. They got a chance to respond here. They have numerous high-end players that can play better, and I just don't see the doom and gloom. They did put themselves in a high-pressure situation because they go down 0-2, they're done. That team will suffocate you, and they'll try to stretch out the game, and they'll get killed. So the next one's do or die, but it's not all doom and gloom. There's areas for improvement. There's guys that can play better, and they have to respond. That's it. It's not the end of the world here.
No, it's not the end of the world, but it's a best-of-5 series.
Right. Oh, sure.
They got to win 3 of 4 now. That's
right,
what it
exactly.
is.
You got to win 3 out of 4, and you better snap out of it. I didn't think they played horribly last night. I thought it was a very balanced game, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think both teams.
They lost 1-0. They lost 1-0 to a good, competitive, structured team.
Right. There's nothing, no reason to feel awful about yourself. I'm not saying that they should feel like the series is over, but this is not game 1 of 82, and this is not even game 1 of a best of 7. You have 3 opportunities here, 4 opportunities at most, to get back into the series and to win this series. And I do think, considering who you're playing, what concerns me when you compare and contrast the situation the Leafs are in right now compared to that of Edmonton, probably the 2 Canadian teams we talk about the most. Clearly we talk about the Leafs the most, but I would say we focus on Edmonton a lot because of McDavid and because of Draisaitl. I don't know what to expect out of Chicago tonight. I could see Chicago come out tonight and be great. I could see them showing up and being awful tonight. I could see Edmonton winning 5-1 tonight and cruising. I know exactly what Columbus is going to do tomorrow, and I know exactly what they're going to do on Thursday, and exactly what they're going to do on Friday, and exactly what they're going to do on Sunday. Exactly what they did last night.
They'll be better, too. They'll be better.
They might be, and that's the point. That's where the Leafs, they have known for 4 months what they're going to get, and they got it. And, yeah, they were in that game, and I thought they checked pretty well. They performed pretty well. But listen, it's not doom and gloom, but if you're facing a do or die, you're not far off.
Well, Brian,
it's too short of a series to just sit there and be like, we'll get them next time. Like, you have to get them next time. You have to win
when
this
you
time
talk
tomorrow.
about Toronto and Edmonton, the way they're designed, it's not like when you're referencing the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's not like this ultra strong like team game where they're coming at, like, it's their star players that have to get it done, just like the Edmonton Oilers. That's the way they're built. That's the way the money's allotted. So when you're looking at Tavares, you're looking at Marner, you're looking at Nylander, those guys have to step up and play. It's not like you say, their depth, that's been such a strength for them has to come through. Their big guys have to be their big guys. End of story.
The only difference, though, is Edmonton was red rotten. The Leafs weren't. That's what Brian's saying. Like, that was, it was a close game. You're right. But, like, Edmonton, like, name me 5 guys on that team that played well.
No, they did not play well. That game was over.
I think also what Hayes is saying is they played well, but you didn't get it done is the ultimate kind of wrap-up.
But could you, like you just named, like Marner, obviously, Tavares could have been better. I thought Justin Hull got exposed.
Yep.
Like he's a guy.
The top 4 defense got leaned on heavily last night. Heavily.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you're looking at a couple bit pieces throughout your lineup where you're like, okay, that guy can play better. He needs more on that. Edmonton was an embarrassment, right? From 5-on-5, they were awful. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so much room to improve there where, the Leafs, they're in for one. This is going to be a hard-fought series. And the only one consistent thing that I notice, and I've seen every game so far, is the teams that have structure, for the most part, have had success. Minnesota has structure. They just dummied Vancouver last night. And Arizona, Carolina, those teams that play and got coaches that challenge them outside of Chicago. Chicago's, I think the leadership help. When you've got Kane and Taves that show up, and then this Kubalik kid is a really good player, and Edmonton was terrible. But
they caught lightning in a bottle. I don't think that happens again tonight.
Right. But the other teams that have structure, like Columbus, like Minnesota, those are going to be tough to play against, and that's where you've got to fight through it. And I thought the Leafs, early on, they're trying to handle the puck, circle back, and then near the end of the game, they were dumping it in because Columbus is like, they're like, come on, come at us.
That's all you got. That's all that's available. You're not going to get anything off the rush. It reminded me so much of watching New Jersey back in our playing days, where it's like, if you think you're going to score off the rush, you're flat out nuts. And they'll catch you trying to make cross-ice passes, stretch passes, and if they try to change their game even more the next one, that's when they'll really get hurt. So they got to get it in, and they got to make plays below the dots. Very simple.
You're right. I'll go a step further. They look like remember the night David Ayres was in net? Carolina just smothered them, and they didn't get a shot on goal. But the Leafs didn't have a shot on goal the last, 6 minutes?
Yeah, 6-7 minutes. Yeah.
Because everywhere you turned, a Columbus player was in position, and they had layers of support. And you know what? This isn't a kick them in the junk thing. You can't forget they've got 2 star defensemen on Columbus.
They are damn good.
Those 2 and Matthews were the 3 best players on the ice.
Absolutely.
Hayes, you've talked about that Seth Jones a lot throughout the last couple of years.
Him.
When you zero in on that kid, he is a
right-shotted Victor Hedman, effectively. He does it all, and he does it all at a high level. Yeah. He's not overly he won't kill you, but he will use his physicality, and he'll lean on you, and he's bigger than you think he is. Deceptively big and strong, and sneaks into pockets all over the ice. He never gets himself caught. And takes on a challenge.
So poised.
Takes on a challenge, too. Seth Jones said after the game, my job is to take on Austin Matthews and John Tavares. What I love about that, what I would love to hear about that if I'm Tortorella in Columbus, it's not my job is to score on the power play or my job is to lead the rush. My job is their best player, and I'm going to beat him, and I'm going to win that battle. And last night, again, I thought Matthews was chugging. I thought he had a bit of a slow start, but he was rolling, man. And you could tell that Columbus, they were concerned with him and him alone because he was going to single-handedly drag the Leafs into overtime, and he came close multiple times.
Well, besides him, there was not a whole lot of
there wasn't anything. That's the story of the night for me is Tavares and Marner. Those 2 were awful last night. Nothing short of awful. They brought nothing to the table. And if that happens again tomorrow, then wait till you hear that you want to hear panic and you want to hear people yelling and screaming, and it'll be deserved. because it's the first game. It's the first game in a long time. You're in a bubble. I got it. But now you've knocked the rust off. And it won't be any easier tomorrow because Columbus is going to come with the exact same attitude, exact same game plan, and challenge you. But John Tavares and Mitch Marner can give way more. They know that.
Yep.
Everyone knows that.
And
but
I wouldn't let him off the hook either way. I wouldn't if Marner comes up and says, "Oh, I want to play with Matt." No, you guys are playing together.
You two are together.
And you got to make it work. I don't know which one is saying, I need this guy to play well for me to feed off it. It's probably Marner has to be going for Tavares to feed. I don't know what it is.
Either way.
But they got to figure it out.
If you're making 10.9, you play on the fourth line and you better make plays.
But you're right. But here's the thing. If 34 is going, get him with players that want to play with him and get him the players that get him the puck. Because halfway through the game, and I know I'm just joking with this a little bit, but I said to Steph, William Nylander's hair was bone dry. Like Matthews is leaking, Riley's leaking. I don't know if the guy's a sweater or not, or if he has a blow dryer on the bench, but legitimately, hair was bone dry halfway through a playoff game.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought he was riding in the wake of Matthews. I thought he made a couple of nice plays with the puck on his stick.
Yep,
but Matthews was dragging the offense and dragging the play, and Nylander was kind of waiting to see, can I pick up some shrapnel here?
Yeah.
But I don't have a big concern with that line. I thought the third line performed the way I expected them to. I thought they were pretty good. The Kerfoot line was pretty good. I thought
Robertson had that opportunity real early on in the game. That could have been a difference maker. And Nylander had one of those performances. I know we're talking about his hair not being dry.
I'm joking. You guys know
I know. But he had one of those games where he made some perimeter plays. Like if Austin Matthews connects on that one-timer, then there's an assist for Nylander, and he's on the board. And there might have been a couple little other opportunities where it would have been a secondary assist, and at the end of the night he could have looked at the score sheet and said, well, I had my 2 apples, blah blah blah, but for the total performance it just wasn't good enough, and they got to be better.
And that might be the glass half full, is that I think the style of game, they didn't look like they were overwhelmed by playing a kind of let's all collapse here, push it to the outside, lean on each other. I thought
they were in the fight.
They were in the fight. I don't have an issue with overall effort. It's more just execution and imposing your will and your style of play a little bit more. You're not going to be able to do it exclusively. You're not going to be able to step on the ice every time you're on and play whichever way you choose to and never get hit and never get pushed off pucks. But who's going to win? That's almost as close as it's going to be, right? Who's going to impose their will 51% of the time over a five-game series? You're probably going to win. If both goalies continue to play like that, that's exactly what's going to happen, because both goalies showed up. They both played really well. So who's going to lean on the other one just a little bit more and break it open just a little bit more?
That's what's concerning for me.
Starting tomorrow.
That's what's concerning for me is one of these goalies has an off night. Now, Freddie, I thought was fantastic.
I thought he played great.
And you gave up. There were high-quality chances at both ends. Mm-hmm. And a couple, I think 3 or 4 times guys were in, not full breakaways, but partial breakaways and stuff, and Freddie looked really, really solid and on top of his game. Columbus doesn't give up a lot of secondary opportunity. That's what helps their goaltending. Like Korpisalo's got really good feet, and he's really economical in tight. Most Finnish goaltenders do. But Columbus is so good. Like, all I could think about last night's game is how Tampa Bay won the Stanley Cup when Tortorella coached that team. You can't get the puck to the net on a straight shot. They clog the middle of the ice, and they say, okay, go outside and shoot. Go ahead. We'll trust our goaltender to make that save. And anything that gets to the slot, they've got support taking away rebounds. That's where I think a guy like Hyman is going to have to bang a rebound in and get to the front of the net and win those physical battles. That's the only concerning thing is the Leafs are right there. I don't disagree.
It's one game. Of course, it's only one game. We all know that goes without saying. They can get back in this and not worry about it in the future.
Hyman can be better, too. You just mentioned him. He can take charge and kind of lead the way, getting in there, creating opportunities, creating space. I don't think he was at his best last night either.
No, he can be better than that. He can be more effective. But I expect that out of him tomorrow. Like, he will have a response. And I'll say this about Austin Matthews, who, again, I thought played really well. That doesn't mean that you can check out for game 2. Like, you need that and more.
Not even close.
Yeah, that and more. Tomorrow you got to score, right? Yeah, great. Keep chugging. Keep playing. Next time, go shelf when you get it wide open in the slot,
that was
right?
The save of the playoffs. Like it
was an unbelievable save.
That was a ridiculous save. Like I actually screamed. I don't know why. I was like, oh my God.
Especially considering who he stopped.
Well, it was a labeled
Matthews
goal.
Got that off. It was a bullet, and he got it up. It just wasn't up high enough.
Right. No, it was a bomb, and it was a great play, and he got lost in coverage and then slid in there, and it was a terrific pass. But it just, Korpisalo was up to the task. But, Columbus, they push you. That Atkinson, remember I was talking about him, like he's a battler. That Dubois is a stud, and he gave them, the defensemen, all they could handle.
Yes, he certainly did.
He's a big, strong guy. Like you can't sleep on some of their young, skilled guys too. They just play a different style. So I think the Leafs, they've just got to respond, but they can't. I don't think you try and open it up. You just got to win those, like you said, Hayes, 51% of those battles. Win a lot of battles where, their will, not skill. Because I think.
Yeah, and I think this is an all-time spin. Okay, this is an all-time spin. But this may be the best-case scenario for, truly evaluating what this team is all about. Because it is ultimately going to come down to your willingness to fight through battles, big games, pressure, all that kind of stuff. Like, right. It's everything that we have wondered about this team. No one's concerned themselves with talent. No one's concerned themselves with the goaltending for the most part. I mean, Freddie isn't Carey Price, but he's also not some plug. Like, you know what you're going to get more often than not. It's, can they prove that they can fight through adversity and win battles and commit to a game plan and stifle the opposition when it's time to stifle the opposition? These have been questions that have hovered around this team for years. And it's not just this team. It was the team 3 years ago and 5 years ago and 7 years ago. Like, we're talking organizationally, this has been hanging over this team for a long time. Do you have the willpower to prove it? And are you built in a way that can win in the playoffs? Because in the playoffs, it's been won the same way. The Cubs have been won the same way for 100 years. Different varieties of style, different varieties of players. But if you think you're just going to play scrimmage and cruise to a Cup final, it's never happened before. It's not going to start this year.
No kidding.
This is a true opportunity because this team and these players have acknowledged that the narrative surrounding them is they're soft, they're more worried about the money, it's all about skill, it's not about will. All those cliches have hung around this team. They're all aware of it. They're evident. They know. They know what people are saying. They know what people have labeled them. Okay, now you're down 1-0 against a team that will consistently play the same style. Let's see what you got. Prove everyone wrong right here. It's a perfect opportunity. Go out and just, boom, nose to the grindstone, man. You push through here, game one doesn't matter if you're off to the second round.
Exactly. I agree. I think there's a lot of – but like you say, that comes back to, the resilience of the group, the character of the group. Are you willing to fight through some adversity, willing to be uncomfortable? This is an uncomfortable situation, I think, for everyone in that bubble.